Chapter 2, September 1st, 1939 to April 22nd, 1941, Krakow, Poland. Over my 16 years, I'd lived 3 different lives. The first was my childhood, full of peace and beauty and memories that lingered in my mind like a faint perfume, sweet but always just out of reach. My father owned a shoe repair shop, and Mama used to sing as she cooked us masterpieces of fish baked in cream sauce or lamb dumplings, her specialty. My brother, Yitzhak, was 2 years younger than me, mischievous and playful. My sister, Sarah, a few years younger than that, had hugs that were made of magic, and she gave them freely. Our lives used to be perfect. Used to be. The Germans invaded Poland on my 13th birthday, a blitzkrieg that came with tanks and bombers and thousands of deaths before our country surrendered that same month. Poland became occupied territory under Germany's control, and Krakow replaced Warsaw as its new capital city. With our country's waving of the white flag, thus began my second life, enduring the occupation. New laws and regulations were immediately instituted, most of them targeting my people. German tanks rolled through the streets, particularly the Jewish quarters, issuing through bullhorns that all Jews must register with the new government. "Don't do it," I warned my parents. "Don't give them our names." "You heard them," Papa always preferred to be cautious. "The penalty for refusing to register is death." Maybe it was, but I had a terrible feeling that the penalty for registration was also death. Within weeks, the invaders barged through our front doors with orders to search all Jewish homes. They combed meticulously through our drawers and cupboards and wardrobes, even cut open the mattress on Sarah's bed to search inside it. Officially, they took our jewelry and foreign currencies, which were forbidden to keep. Unofficially, they took everything they wanted. My mother's fur coat that had been an anniversary gift from Papa, a violin that Yitzhak had saved up for months to buy. They tossed our prayer books into the square and burned them, simply because they could. At the time, I'd been relieved, thinking that they had taken nothing from me. But they would. Very soon, they would take everything. Like a hungry fire, their destruction continued throughout the city. Our national monuments were looted, synagogues were burned, and the bronze statue of our national poet, Adam Mickiewicz, was taken for scrap metal. 1 month later, forced labor began. Jews were made to dig ditches, pave roads, and drain swamps. If they were paid at all, it was with a mouthful of bread and little more. Papa and I were on the streets one day when I happened to look down at a man cleaning out sewage from a broken pipe. "That's our rabbi," I whispered. Papa took my hand and quickly pulled me along. "Don't look," he whispered. "Learn not to see anything or to be seen." I did learn, better than he could have imagined. There were ways to move about the streets so as not to draw attention to oneself. Those who did it well got home safely each night. I perfected it, which was important because I'd also learned that the Nazis held us in particular contempt. They wanted the Poles to see that if we were given the work of animals, we would do the work of animals. They wanted the world to think that we were less than human. At first, I thought it would be impossible for any civilized person to believe such absurdities, such ugliness. That was only the beginning. By November, all Jews were required to wear the yellow Star of David on an armband, which created an entirely new set of problems for us. Now that we were easily identified, we became easy marks for Poles or Germans who considered harassment a cheap form of entertainment. One day, Mama took us into town. We were supposed to meet Papa at the corner outside his shoe repair shop, but we had heard a commotion nearby. Mama let out a small cry and tried to pull us away, but I recognized my father's black fedora. "No," I growled as I broke free. "What are they doing?" He had been stopped by a Polish police officer who was making him stand at attention while he ripped out pieces of my father's beard, one fistful at a time. With every tear, my father grunted with pain, but he said nothing and offered no form of resistance. The crowd that had gathered pointed at him and laughed, as if humiliation and pain were some kind of joke. The closer I got, the angrier I became. How could they do such a thing? These were people who had been peaceful toward us in the past. Some had even been our friends. I started forward, determined to defend my father, but Yitzhak grabbed me from behind and dragged me away from the crowd. "We have to help him," I said, still fighting. Mom was by my side and then spoke firmly. "Don't make it worse, Chaya. Let it be." By then the officer had finished with my father, and he was waving the crowd away. At one time this would have been shocking behavior, but gradually such abuse became common. Now it was accepted. The officer saw me glaring at him and only smiled, receiving pats on his back from members of the crowd. If he knew what I'd been thinking, he'd have arrested me. Late that night, I heard my father crying with my mother at his side. I never heard him cry before, and it crushed my heart. Afterward, he avoided going out on the streets, and if he had to, then he walked with his eyes down, hands stuffed in his pockets. They had not just taken pieces of his beard, they had robbed my father of his dignity, which was far worse. The new year, 1940, brought the tightening of the noose. My father lost his business and most of his savings. We sold my mother's china, my father's typewriter and books. We traded extra clothes and household items for food, and my brother and I worked endlessly for Polish families, cleaning or doing odd jobs to earn less than a tenth of what we could have charged before the war. Then we were told our neighborhood was to become part of a German-only district and we'd have to leave.